Hello, welcome to Quackalope. Thank you for being here. Today I'm bringing you a Kickstarter preview of The Last Kingdom from Games and designed by John D Clair, whose name, if you don't know already, you should get to know quickly. Probably one of the most preeminent board game designers currently working in our space. So, The Last Kingdom, the board game, based off of the Netflix original series, The Last Kingdom, is going to be a drafting and area control style game where your allegiances will shift throughout the course of play, and all you're trying to do is make sure that you have the most successful battles in the most areas with people that you're allied to. Does that mean that you're working with the Saxon army or affiliated very closely with the Danes? Well, it could, and your allegiance will probably shift from round to round or from session to session. In this game, you're going to take asymmetric characters, each with their own unique starting attributes and abilities. You're going to use their asymmetric cards in order to be the starting foundation of how the game will progress and play, and you're going to manipulate this board here, shifting cubes and different faction armies from one region to another, removing them or placing them down, and allying with whatever unit is going to be winning the next battle. Now, don't worry, you don't always have to be allied with a winning faction. You will get kickbacks and benefits as the game progresses, even if you lose, but you certainly want to be involved. It has a lot of essences that remind you of things like Blood Rage, for instance, another drafting and area control style game, while playing insanely quick, being easy to pick up, and also being extremely tactical. There is a lot of nuanced choice here. There are a lot of fun powers and abilities as you start drafting through the cards and deciding exactly how you want to approach the actual battlefield here. The objective of the game, like I said, is score the most victory points, but how do you do that? Well, in every conflict that happens, there'll be two sides heavily represented, either the Saxon armies or the Danes. If you have your affinity with the Danes as high as possible, like let's say up here into this region where you're scoring 3 per winning scoring or winning marker, and the Danes win the battle, you'll then be able to count up to 5 of them, timesing that by 3, that's 15 victory points you'll put behind your board here, scoring for the end of the game. Let's say, however, you're in a region where the Saxon army wins. Well, then it's going to be split between the West Saxons, the Mercians, and the Northumbrians. There, again, you'll be able to score up to 5 different cubes, getting the victory points depending on who was there winning the battle. There's a give and a take, and some different asymmetric players will work better with the Saxons, some will favor the Danes, but either way, you're going to be able to switch your affinity from one side to the other side, depending on who might win in one specific region. So if the Danes are positioned to win, why not side with them for a round? If the Saxon army is slowly taking over the Hitherlands, why not give them that extra little encouragement they need and get the victory points that you're looking for? That's the puzzle of this game. The game will play through 2 full rounds, with every round consisting of up to 5 potential battles. You as players will be determining where the next battles are going to be happening by placing down these markers, and depending on who passes, we'll get to determine where the next battle might resolve itself. Meaning you could jump up to Northumbria, you could fight here in Wales, you could pause for a second and hope that the board transforms itself a little bit before it's your turn to go. At the start of the game, you're going to be drafting a pile of cards, and these cards become the crux of everything that you're doing. Now, you do have some marketplace actions that you can take as well, but the resources for those are going to be these markers here, and these can get pretty rare and pretty expensive depending on what faction you're playing. Now, of course, you're going to have different sets of cards. Phase 1 will have a unique set, Phase 2 will have its own unique set, and both of these contain insanely powerful combinations. Now, these cards will have main actions that'll give you some abilities, they'll have instant actions, which of course are going to give you some instant abilities, and they'll have a few actions like this that are just pure chaos. Now, there might also be some middle actions here, things that trigger and give you in-game effects or in-game bonuses. Let's go through a few of these actions. Like for instance here, Dane Invasion. This is going to be full action for you on your turn, and you're going to move 3 of the Dane armies into another region. Very powerful for repositioning the board strength and potentially taking over an area. You're going to have friendships. This is where you are going to increase your affinity with one of the various factions. In this case, it would be the Danish faction, and that, of course, will score you more victory points later on in the game. And stuff like chaos. Draw a round 2 card off the top of the deck and add it to your hand. This action does not count as a player's turn. Well, that's absolutely fantastic, because these cards can be fairly powerful. Like, for instance, here, I'm going to gain 2 of my... I'm going to gain 2 affinity with 1 faction that I have the least with, and then I'm going to go ahead and gain 2 action tokens as well. These are tokens that you can spend on the marketplace up top there. So you'll start off by drafting up to 5 cards, depending on the number of players that you're playing with, and you'll then use those cards to take actions across the board to reposition and distribute the various different tribal wars that are happening, and deciding where and how you want your factions or your leaders to be involved in those conflicts. Now, you want to be in locations where conflict is happening. That benefits you, because if you win, you'll gain victory points depending on who you are allied with, and if you lose, you'll gain action tokens as a recompense for, well, fighting in the battle nonetheless. Now, there are some in-game abilities that you can take as well. In fact, we have a whole row from the marketplace up here. Now, if you can see the marketplace, you're going to start at 3, go to 4, 5, and then finally 6. And when you take an action with the marketplace, you'll grab the token, you'll do the action, and you'll shift it up to the top row of the market. So whatever is the most valuable to be used at the time will be the thing that's drawing players' attention. Now, these are flipped currently to the 2-player side. There's a backside of them which has very similar actions without a few of the bonuses. So I'll go through these as they are here. We have, I shall take what is mine. Move 2 factions, move 2 cubes from one region to another, then move 1 from that region that you just moved to another there. Then go ahead and look at a card in your opponent's hand. Go ahead and place down some various different Saxon armies in 3 different regions, and then double down on your affinity. You cannot change your allyship on this fight, but if the other player is also allied with, let's say, the Saxons, you then will be the winner, and they'll be the loser no matter what. Make the right choice. This is going to go ahead and increase your affinity in one of these locations, but you lock off one of your ability to change tribes, which, again, makes it a little complicated. I am Dane. This is where you place down 2 Danish armies just out of the marketplace into the board, and you double down on the Danish armies themselves. Like I said, this is where you win no matter what, assuming the Danes win. No mercy. Cut off 2 different units, killing them off the board, gain 3 victory points for yourself. To see is to be wise. Here you're going to flip your faction allegiance. Take one of these, flip it over, meaning that you're going from the Saxons to the Danes. This is how a lot of the push and shove, the give and take of the game works. You're going to go ahead and lose an action token if you can. And this last one here, draw up 3 cards, put 2 of them on the bottom, and keep 1 of the level 2 cards, which we already went through and acknowledged are extremely powerful. So, that's the core crux of this game. Throughout the course of the game, you're going to be drafting cards and then using those cards to take selective actions. And every battle is going to resolve a little bit slower than you'd like it to happen. So you're going to be able to predict and see where the next fight might happen. And you'll watch the board transform as you play. I found that as you play, sometimes you spend a lot of actions up early to secure some victory points early on, but you end up sacrificing the late game because you have no more cards, no more actions to play. Your resources are limited to just struggling to move your character across the board and resolving whatever battles you come across, while other players strategize and still have cards or actions to manipulate. The different faction powers, the different leader powers also change the game a lot. Depending on who you are, you might have a bonus of cards or better ability to actually contribute to different battles, or you might get more action tokens, which means you can manipulate and move across the board a little bit more consistently. Overall, this is a insanely quick playing, very accessible skirmish and drafting game, right? Area control mixed with drafting, mixed with victory point and ally switching sides. I think it's very, very well done. I'm excited to get it back to the table, and I can't wait to play it at higher player counts. So far, Shira and I have dove into this at 2 players, and I have really, really enjoyed it as a head-to-head skirmish fight. I mean, there is no luck happening here. This gives you all the information you need to make good tactical decisions, and still, sometimes other players will outthink, outmaneuver, and outwit you to the victory. I really am impressed with what Gamelin's produced here. I'm excited about what John D Clair is doing in our industry, and I cannot wait to see more of this in the future. I'm going to be paying attention to that Kickstarter page. Link has always been in the top of the video description. Make sure you swing over there and take a look at everything else they have planned here. I know this is just the beginning to something very cool. So, with that, whatever the case, whatever you do, remember to do the important thing. Get out and play some games. I'll see you next time.